Today's topic is one that's highly debated amongst the martial arts community. Because of that, I must wear something that shows my martial arts knowledge and prowess. Now we may begin.
Perfect.
So a lot of people have discussed about how punching stuff should be done with gloves and wraps to protect your wrist, but why don't you protect your wrist yourselves? How it's imperative to be wearing gloves and wraps in order to achieve your best power and add more stuff to your punches, which I agree with. Those things do add power, but are you not worried about busting up your hands or breaking stuff if you don't do otherwise? Personally, I'm young. I've never had a broken hand. Why not work on the form of not wearing gloves? Because the reason that gloves and wraps were created were not to protect other people's noggins or their brain, because that's obviously been proven wrong. They were designed to protect our hands. But what if we protected our hands without using gloves or wraps? I personally am a proponent of striking things and hitting bags without having to use gloves or wraps. And what I think I'm doing by doing this, now I'm not necessarily talking about making the bones in my hand denser, bone densening. I don't know the verb of whatever that action's called. I don't hit the makiwara, for those of you asking. Every now and then I'll crack my hands with an eskrimo, which is a Filipino fighting stick. I'll do the same thing with my shins. But I don't do that very often. And that's because when I think of bare knuckle fighting, I don't think about how I can make sure my bones are stronger. I drank plenty of milk as a kid. I didn't eat my vegetables. What I'm thinking about is aligning my bones properly, flexing my forearms, making sure that my structure is strong. You can make plenty of structures that are sturdy and hold up that are made out of toothpicks, right? The idea is that if I give it the right support, that I can hit stuff hard without having to worry about breaking the foundation of it. In fact, I even make it an effort to every 2 times that I hit the bag with gloves on, I try and hit it once without gloves on. Especially like growing up in a karate household, we didn't use a lot of gloves. Like I wasn't trained to punch with gloves on. Once I did, I got used to them. But I think I enjoyed my way better because it really made me focus on like hitting with the right stuff, aligning my bones, and I'll show you what we're talking about in a second. But when I sit here and I go like this and I drive into the bag, I have a pretty good idea that I'm not going to destroy my wrists. And that's because I set up this good alignment that we talked about before. Now this alignment is going to be pretty simple. I want to bear the load of my punch. I want to have support behind it. So what that means is as I punch, I'm aiming with these 2 knuckles here. As I go here, my force is going in towards. Now, what a lot of people do is they punch with the way your fist regularly goes. But watch what happens as I hit here. Boop. If I made a straight line back from where I was punching, there's nothing behind it. So what I like to do is I like to make this a straight line from a knuckle down my forearm and to my elbow. Okay, so my elbow is a supporting load for when I hit this bag. I'm not punching like this. I'm not trying to hit with all 4 knuckles with a completely straight wrist. I try and turn it in. One easy way to think about it is I go flat line when my thumb is up, and I go flat line when my thumb is sideways. Because as soon as this wrist starts to vary is when you'll feel it. Like when people hit bags without wraps, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to hurt their wrist by hitting it with their wrist all funky. Like plenty of time you'll see people hit bags like this. Okay, and even I had to adjust myself there to make sure I wasn't actually hitting with my knuckles. I was hitting with my palm because I didn't want to mess up my wrist. What I think happens when you only hit with gloves is that you start to lose a little bit of that danger that hitting without any gloves has. That danger of what happens when you don't hit with any gloves or wraps, because you can mess your stuff up when it comes to punching and hitting things without wraps or gloves, right? But the idea is to let your body tell you when you're messing up. And now that doesn't mean go right into hitting bags like this. Bang! Like really trying to smoke this bag. That means touching it. Because what will happen is if you touch it and you feel it go limp for a second, whoop, you're like, oh, whoa, readjust, back up, hold your horses. So I recommend easing into this kind of thing, right? Going really soft, figuring it out. And I think Icy Mike has made a video like this in the past. It wouldn't surprise me. It feels like a very Icy Mike thing to say. I don't think I'm on board with Icy Mike on this one. I could be wrong. If he has made a video on this, Let me know if in the comments if he was like with it or not. Another way I try and make sure that I have structure is by really strengthening my forearms and my grip, right? You'll see people who like dug in sand for years and years. I try and do the same thing, and I do it through grip strength, through like being able to hang on things. I've done years and years and years of football where we did power cleans, we did deadlifts, we did all this funky stuff, which made my forearms and my shins and my calves and all those muscles around it very sturdy and strong, because they had to carry a big load of either hitting somebody or pass setting and making sure nobody could come by. Also, I'm talking football with 2 O's, not with a U. I may be really good at kicking things, but it's not me. Now, don't get me wrong here. I think that if you use these Hayabusa T3 boxing gloves with extra wrist support and a sweat pad to make sure you never have sweat in your eyes, that you'll be a better puncher because you can add more power, you can let go a little bit more. I think it's great for cardio. Obviously, it's good for training. You can't really train without them. I'm not saying you don't need to buy boxing gloves anymore, because you should. You should still be hitting. Like I said, for every 2 times that I hit with gloves on a heavy bag, there is 1 time that I don't. But I still hit with those 2 times with these boxing gloves because of all the benefits they have, of the wrist support, of the knuckle support, of making sure your hands stay nice and pristine for your lady friend or your man friend or whoever your friend is. And you've got to make sure that your hands are safe and recovering. I can go like this and go smash on a bag for like 3 hours, and the only thing I have to worry about recovering is like the soreness of my shoulders, not the brokenness of my hand or how busted up my knuckles are. With that being said, link in below. So if it's a test of how hard you can hit with and without gloves, I think that the answer is definitely you can hit harder with gloves, at least comfortably. While I can put a little more something behind it with the gloves, as I'm throwing the hands, I feel comfortable until you don't. Like there's one moment where it's just gonna suck and it's not gonna be fun because you accidentally hit it the wrong way, you were not anticipating the bag to go the right way. It's gonna hurt. If you really wanna get into like a beginner version of conditioning your hands to punch stuff bare knuckle, I would recommend finding a softer bag and work on just hitting everything, aligning this stuff correctly, and then eventually you'll start to be able to go harder. And I don't mean eventually like the time it took me right there. I mean like after years, right? Do not go right into a bag and just go whack, 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 right? Because you're gonna mess yourself up. I want you to work on going straight punches first, and then eventually get to a point where you can really dig in, and then go slow with the hook punches. And get to a point where those feel comfortable. And guess what? To be totally honest, there are times where I go beep, and I hit it the wrong way, and I'm like, ugh, and I like have a touch of pain in my wrist. But to be honest, after a while, it goes away from me. Do not take that as an opportunity to go all out. I repeat, don't be dumb. When I say this, all I'm doing is I'm stating that I've never had a hand injury because of hitting something. Hold on. Thinking. No, I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever had a hand injury from hitting bags, at least one that lasted more than like 3 days. And I've also spent plenty of time just trying to be cool, doing stuff like snagging heavier types of bags that are designed to have a little more force behind them. I like the idea of like making it so I'm not surprised by how much knuckles hurt sometimes, because that smack on the skin is not fun. And older karate practitioners will be like, yes, we live by the makiwara. And they hit this thing all the time. Gosh, that sucked. And they hit this thing all the time, and they work on striking like that. And I guess I get the idea. And I'm not consistently going to do that all the time because I don't want my hands to look like they were destroyed by 8-year-olds with plastic hammers. But what I am going to do is work on being comfortable with the idea of being able to strike bare knuckle when I have to. Putting myself in those situations, not because I'm making my bones stronger, but because I'm making everything else around it support it. There's going to be a lot of people that are upset with me because I didn't give you a direct means to making your knuckles stronger. And that's fine. I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, if you want to dislike, that's okay. What I do want you to be able to take away from this is that you can make your forearm stronger, you can make your hand stronger, using the architecture and the blueprint of your hand, your striking surface, the thing that is sturdy. Not necessarily the stuff that you use, because you can't go from wood to concrete inside of here. You can't change that, but what you can do is make the house stronger by giving it more angles, more stuff, I don't know, engineering stuff. Hopefully you guys like this. If you have any other questions or things you need help with, make sure you drop them in the comments, hit the like button. And if you don't subscribe, I will take off my gloves, I will take off my wrap with a punch. You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.